Hey everyone, welcome back to the Hybrid Athlete Dad podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to be going over celebrating progress in fitness and fatherhood. Now, before I dive into today's episode, I like to go over anything that I'm experiencing, whether when it comes to fitness, this could be working out, this could be going for runs, to anything that I'm dealing with nutrition wise. Maybe it's something that new that I've incorporated into my routine, and pretty much everything in between. Now, to kick off today's episode, I posed the question, why is leg day so hard? I will go through Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I'll go through and I'll hit the other body parts: bicep, tricep, shoulders, chest, back, you name it, get it done. Yes, it's hard. Yes, going through and benching, hard, deadlifting, hard. But I mean, when I am sitting there and I'm doing Bulgarian split squats, I'm just sweating. My heart rate is almost like 160. It's crazy how high it gets and how winded I get from leg day. I started a new leg day workout, and this is what it looks like. I used to do squats, and when I was doing squats, I just never felt when I would go up in weight, when I'd be squatting like 275, 300, for me that was a good weight, is I felt as though my back wasn't in the best position. I use a belt when I lift the very heavy weight, especially when it comes to squatting. Typically only do it squatting, deadlifting, and then shoulder press, and then sometimes different exercises in between. But I found that my back had never felt in the best position the higher I would go up in weight. So I started doing hack squats. So that's typically what I start off with. So I'll do 4 sets of 6 on hack squats instead of doing 4 sets of 6 on the regular squats. I'll go from hack squats, then I'm going to do leg press. I do 4 sets of 12 on the leg press. Once that's done, I do 3 sets of 12 or 3 sets of 15 Bulgarian split squats. And what I found that helps me on doing the Bulgarian split squats is right now I'm doing 30-pound dumbbells in each hand because, again, I'm doing 15 reps on each leg. I'll do the 15 reps right leg. I'll take a minute rest in between and then do the 15 reps on the left leg and then go back and forth. So yes, it takes a little bit longer, but I find that giving myself a little bit more recovery time is very beneficial, because I found one of the problems I would have with the split squats is just holding the weights, because sometimes I might be holding them for 3 or 4 minutes, depending on how long it takes me to do the exercise on each leg. So once that's done, then I do 4 sets of 10 calf raise machine. Then I'll go through 3 sets of 12 leg curl machine, 4 sets of 12 leg extension. By the time I get to the leg extensions, my legs are just shot. I use the machine for that. Typically, it's funny, I would do like 165, 180, go rep 8 to 10 reps. Perfectly fine. Because I've done primarily the hack squats, the leg press, the Bulgarian split squats, now I can only do 85 pounds, 100 pounds. It's funny, the first time I did it, which was the first time I incorporated all these all these lifts together for my leg day, and doing it last week or 2 weeks, or I think we're going on 3 weeks now. I've done this sort of leg day workout, and I found that it was just funny when I tried to do the leg extension and I couldn't do nearly as much weight as I could before. And I think that's because I do it at the end of the workout and I'm getting crushed early on. But man, is it tough going through the workout? I'm exhausted, I'm bent over, I'm out of breath. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know that I have to do leg day. And to make, I don't know if make matters worse, but I also do a 5-mile run, and I'll do that a little bit after the leg day workout, and it's just like excruciating. I don't want to say pain, but definitely don't want to be out there running 5 miles after doing leg day. But I found that when I do force myself to run and do the 5 miles, my legs aren't as sore the next day, where if I don't run at all and I do legs on Wednesday, when I run on Thursdays, my legs will be in shambles. So it's kind of polar opposite of what you'd think, but just wanted to put those thoughts out there that I think leg day is a very hard day, but it must be done. And again, I like to mix it up. So again, for me, that's doing hack squats instead of doing regular squats. I had done hack squats for a while, and what happened to me, and it kind of scared me for quite a while, but so there was a band attached. It was somehow attached to the hack squat machine, attached to the hack squat. So, and I didn't realize this. In essence, what this meant is when you do the hack squat, you could go down and it almost like slingshot you back up. So you'd get the weight going down. So I thought, okay, like I'm doing good. Like I did 3 plates, no problem at all on the hack squat on each side. And then I go to do 4 plates because I'm like 3 plates, like this is easy, not realizing that someone had put the band on the hack squat machine so that when you get to the bottom, it slingshots you back up to the top. So the following week, I'm like, I can do 3 plates. Usually I would add just 25. I'm like, I'm crushing it. Like I'm doing 3 plates on each side. I'm doing 12 reps, not realizing it. So I go to do 4 plates, and you know how you lift off with the hack squat, and then you go to bend down, get in the squat position. It just pushed me all the way down to the bottom, and just with just such force that I hadn't expected it. Using the 4 plates on each side. Luckily, I didn't get hurt or anything like that. More embarrassing than anything else. So I stopped hack squatting for a while, went back to regular squats. I have a hard time doing lunges, which is why I do the Bulgarian split squats. It's ever since I ran my marathon, I have a little bit of pain in my left big toe. I don't really feel it too much when I'm running. I talked about this on a previous episode, but more when I do planks and when I do lunges. So whenever I do the Bulgarian split squats, I find it definitely helps. But that was my little story on the hack squats. But now back to doing it. And I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, did hack squats for the first time again. And then I was like, I know I could do 3 plates easy. I didn't really learn my lesson. I should have, but did 2 plates. I got it done, but it didn't feel that good. Felt as though it was almost going to strain my back the way I was pushing so much weight. And that's something else I've sort of discovered at the gym. And to give you another example, and not so much leg day, but I've been doing bent over rows. And I progressed from 135 barbell rows up to 185. I felt as though with 185 I could do it, but I wasn't getting the full range of motion. I couldn't row it as close to my almost chest, or say lower abdomen, as I would like without having not the best form. So I dropped the weight down to 155, and I've been doing 4 sets of 6 or 8, I can't remember exactly, using that weight, and I feel as though the form is much better. Same thing with lat pull down. I was doing 175 for 8. I dropped it down to 145 for 8 recently, and just focused directly on the form, focused directly on the squeeze. And I can feel my lats getting squeezed. So that's just another, or not to digress, and that was just a thought that came to me, but wanted to share that with you. We're sometimes doing a little bit less weight, but focusing more on the form. And another good example for having the next point is when you're doing tricep extensions. When I'm pulling down, I'm doing the tricep extensions. I could, at least for my gym, I could use 120 pounds over, using the cables to do it. But I find if I do 50 or 60 pounds and I do 4 sets of 15 and I go down and I just pull and I feel the burn in my tricep. I hold for a second, then come back up. So I'm doing less weight, but I'm focusing on better form. That again has been very beneficial to me in the recent weeks. Now, something else I want to talk about that I thought was interesting. So I have the Garmin Forerunner 965 watch, a lot better than the Fitbit. Highly recommend it if you just have a Fitbit. It's been phenomenal to me. And one of the cool things about the Garmin is that you can track your heart rate. So you have your different zones. So you have zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, zone 5. So zone 5 being the highest. And I thought it was interesting. So I did a tempo run on Mondays, which is what I like to do. I do tempo runs on Mondays. And I was in zone 5 it was a 45-minute run, probably 30 seconds. I think so that means my heart rate wasn't that elevated. So I was going fast, but my heart rate was still about 165, 170 when I was doing that tempo run, which is pretty good. For me, I like to keep it about 160 when I'm just going at a slow pace. And then the next day, so that was 5 miles. So the next day I go out and do 6 miles. I did tempo run. I do one tempo run a week, and then I kind of take it easy the rest of the week. But I like to do hills. Now, I'm not sprinting up hills or anything like that. There's just this particular route that I can run that has a lot of hills going up and down. I like just continue to train on them. I was in zone 5, so it was a 55-minute run, about give or take. Or I think it was 54, but that doesn't matter. 54 minutes, and probably about 20 minutes of that, so say 40% of the run was in zone 5. But here I was doing a tempo run, but more on a flat surface, and here I am doing a light jog on the 6 mile run, but because there's hills, I'm in zone 5 for 40% of my run, where I was basically not even in zone 5 at all on my tempo run. I just thought that was something that was interesting, and just the importance of continuing to go out there and practice running on hills, because it can be exhausting even when you're going out there at a slow pace. But again, I don't like to do that all the time. I want to keep my legs somewhat fresh so I can continue to get my 5 runs in throughout the week. Another item, I don't know if it's an item, but something else that I want to bring up is Nick Bear's podcast. If you haven't heard of him, I highly recommend going out there and checking him out. So he's the founder of Bear Performance Nutrition. I take a lot of his supplements, have been following him for probably the past year or so now. He has a great podcast out there, and I was listening to his podcast going through his sleep schedule, and I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't. For me, and what my sleep schedule looks like is I get up either at 4:15 or 4:50 depending on my workout. So typically Mondays and Thursdays I'm up at 4:15 because my workout's going to be a little bit longer. Where Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays I get up at usually 4:50. But with that said, the importance I find when someone's getting up that early is, no, I don't really enjoy getting up at 4:15. I'd much rather just being able to sleep in without the alarm clock, but I know I have responsibilities. I want to get my workout in before my daughter gets up. But on the back end, when I get up at 4:15, I have to be lights out by 9:15 and not a minute later. When I get up at 4:50, I like to be lights out no later than 9:30 and sort of use that as a non-negotiable no matter what's going on in the day. Wednesdays are a busy day. I don't have a lot of time for myself. I finish work, I go take my daughter to daycare. Then after she comes back from daycare, I should say, we take her to gymnastics. We come back from that, we have dinner. Then it's trash and recycling night, so we have to do all that. We got to go through our nighttime routine with our daughter. Once we put her down, we have to pick up the house. And then I shower Wednesday nights after I put her down. I usually shower at night. But Wednesday just happens to be busier because we have a little bit later of a dinner. Then we got to take out all the trash, and then we have to pick up the house. So sometimes I'm not getting into bed until 9 o'clock, 9:15. It's lights out right away, because I know if I stay up later, if I stay up to 10, like this past Sunday, I stayed up and I watched the Super Bowl, and I ended up just staying up and watching all of it because I really enjoyed it. I went to bed at 10:20, 10:30, and then it's kicking my butt on Monday. So this is to say that if you're someone that's looking to get up early in the morning, it all starts with the night before, what time you go to bed, because I can function on Monday on 6 hours of sleep. I really prefer 7.5 hours of sleep. I find that's really the sweet spot for me. And then depending on how the week goes, if I have a lot going on at work, if I'm stressed and whatnot, just responsibilities, sometimes on Saturday or Sunday, I like to get an 8.5 hours of sleep. I think the longest I'd slept recently went to bed at 8:30 on the weekend and woke up at 7 the next morning. So what is that? 10.5 hours. Usually don't need that much sleep, but that tells me that I wasn't getting enough sleep during the week, and I can go look back. Okay, this night I went to bed at 9:45. This night I went to bed at 10, and then my body, because I'm working out 5 days a week at the gym, I'm doing these 5 runs per week. My body maybe didn't have enough time to rest and recuperate from it. So again, recommend checking out his episode on sleep. I'm about 75% of the way through, and he gives some good tips and recommendations. Last thing I want to make a mention before we get into today's episode is, again, a book I am reading called Iron Cowboy. I'm almost through the book, and I highly recommend checking it out if you're an endurance athlete, someone that's looking to push your mental limits to see how far you can go. With the book, James Lawrence, he does 50 Ironmans in 50 states in 50 days. Not 50 Ironmans, 50 Ironman distances, which is 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike ride. I think there might be a little extra onto that. And then a marathon, so 26.2 miles every day, 50 states, 50 days. Pretty insane, if you ask me. When I think to myself, like where I am at right now, I've run one marathon, and that not put me in the ground, but that put me in the pain house for quite a while there, trying to recover and recuperate from that. So I can't even imagine doing 26 marathons straight for 50 days, not including all the biking and the swimming as well. So it's a fantastic read. I highly recommend it. I think I saw he came out with a book where he does 100 of these Ironman distance triathlons in 100 days. I don't know if it's, obviously it can't be 100 different states, so I don't know how that worked, but he did come out with that one, so I might check that book out. But again, wanted to give you a book recommendation if you're just tuning to the show and haven't heard me make a mention of it before. Now, diving into today's episode, which is celebrating progress in fitness and fatherhood. It's easy to forget to celebrate the progress you've made. I'm going out there and I'm running miles and miles and miles every single week. I've gone off and I did a marathon last year. But what I forget to remember is that during that time, there was a time when I had started running last year in the spring. We're running a run through the neighborhood right next to us and do like a little loop through it. It would be a mile and a half around back to my house, and I would just be absolutely exhausted. Then I went and I did my first 5K. I remember just feeling so proud and accomplished that I did. And I went out and did this 5K. And then that 5K turned into different races, half marathons and marathons. And it's easy to forget what that feeling was like when I ran that first 5K. When anyone in the audience has gone out and ran your first 5K, to all of a sudden doing these longer distance races, to remember that I have to celebrate every single race I did, no matter how big, no matter how small. Running 3 miles may not seem like a big accomplishment, but I can tell you when I'm running, I know I was talking about earlier in the episode, when I'm running hills, and it's 3 miles of hills, that is a good distance. So just to remember that, to celebrate, whether you're running a 5K, whether you're running a marathon, they're all in different seasons of our life. I happen to be in the season that I wanted to run a marathon. In the late spring, early summer, I was in the season that I wanted to do a 5K. Always looking to push forward and get better, but we have to remember where we started. And this reiterates back to my first point, where I was running 10-minute miles, where the other day I ran a 7:30-minute mile. That was during a tempo run. I'm not holding down 7:30-minute miles, but I am holding down, when I ran my 15K, I believe it was 8:15 miles, and when I ran my last half marathon, it was 8.5-minute miles, where previously I'd ran 9.5-minute miles on my first half marathon that I had done. So it's just, again, remembering where we started and celebrating the progress that we've made along the way. I want you to avoid the all or nothing mentality. Many people fall into the trap of thinking success only counts if they achieve massive goals. A massive goal can be benching 225 for the very first time, or running a marathon and thinking that if I don't bench 225, or if I don't run a marathon, I'm a failure, I didn't hit my full potential, but not realizing that success is built in the day to day actions. The day to day actions for me is running 5 miles a week with doing one long run. It's doing strength training 5 days a week, and it's doing that every single week. Where maybe I'm not getting faster the fifth week I've been running or the 10th week, but maybe at this point where I'm coming up on a year running, now I'm starting to get faster because I was making that consistent progress every single day. I can think back to when I went to the gym for the very first time so many years ago, flat dumbbell benching 25 pounds and just absolutely struggling with it. And then now looking at, okay, what am I able to do now on the flat dumbbell bench press? Same thing with benching. The accomplishment of hitting 135 on the bar for the very first time and realizing that this is all part of the journey. And it's easy to go online and see these people that they just started running and then now they're running this fast, or they just started lifting and they're lifting this much weight. But I don't want you to get trapped in that all or nothing mentality, because I think just so many people get trapped in that thinking that if I don't run a marathon, if I don't bench 225, then I'm going to be considered a failure. Where it's like, no, your success is actually built in the day-to-day actions that you take, and that's what's going to allow you to bench 225, or that's what's going to allow you to run a marathon. Progress is more important than perfection. Taking consistent action. This is the compound effect of small wins, and that's what I was just talking to you about right away. Or what I was talking to you about before. You're not going to see changes right away, but over time, you will. You can think, if you're someone that's looking to start to get into running, again, you can start very slow. If you're someone that's just starting to work out, if you look at yourself in the mirror a month later, you might not see much progress. But if you look at yourself 6 months or 12 months later, now you're really starting to make these gains. So again, I don't want you to get caught up on this perfection. I have to run 7-minute miles. And it's easy for even myself to get caught up in that. I'll look at Nick Bear as an example, and he's running 10 miles a day. He's running almost a 7-minute pace on average with a heart rate of 130. I run 10 miles right now, 1 day a week for my long run, and I'm absolutely toasted. There's no way I could, at this point, want to go out and run 10 miles a day. I'm not training for a marathon at this point in time, but it's easy to get caught up, and I'm thinking, he has a 130 heart rate at a 7-minute mile pace for 10 miles, and he does this every single day. And my heart rate for 10 miles will probably average about to be 165, and I do this 1 day a week, and I'm mentally beat down and worn down the rest of the day through all that effort that I took. So it's easy to just look at someone else and think they're just doing so much better for where they are without realizing that there could be someone that's starting out running for the very first time that they've never even ran 10 miles. Maybe they haven't even ran a 5K. But it's all relative to where we are. And again, it goes back to just taking small, consistent action each and every single day. Something else I want to talk about when it comes to celebrating progress and fitness and fatherhood is celebrating non-physical wins. Now you might be thinking, okay, like what does that mean? You're a fitness podcast, you're talking about strength training and running and whatnot. What I mean by physical wins is getting better sleep. If you're getting 6 hours and you know you need to get 7 hours, what can you do to get extra sleep? Maybe it's improved mental health. There's times when I'm running my side hustle where things aren't going right in my business, but I can look back on it and I know that anytime I've had a hardship in my business, I've come out stronger on the other side of it, and that's me working on my mental health. Maybe I had a client where something just didn't work out, and maybe it's in my job and something's not working out. I'm not agreeing with the client in my job, but not letting that have a toll on my mental health and taking that home. Maybe that's a win. It's setting a positive example for my daughter where she can see me getting dressed when I go out on a run, or maybe when I'm coming back on a run. She can see me when I'm coming back from the gym sometimes, or when I'm drinking a shake, or when I'm having a good quality healthy meal, when I'm having chicken, rice, chicken, rice, and broccoli. Maybe it's just being present with my family where it's easy. I get up, I work out, I come home, I eat breakfast, I go for a run, I work and 8 or 9 hours through the day. I get done with dinner or get done with work. I cook dinner and I'm exhausted, and it's easy just to want to sit there and be on my phone and just almost just veg out and just scroll and not be present, realizing like I only have a limited amount of time with my family where yes, I'm busy throughout the day, but I want to be more present with my family. I want to be more present with my daughter, and that's a non-physical win that I could celebrate. I take my phone, I put it upstairs, I don't even look at it, and I just play with her for the 2 or 3 hours before she goes to bed for the night. So that's what I mean by celebrating non-physical wins. I recommend sharing your wins, whether it's with a friend, your partner. It could be even on social media. I like to tell my dad some of the things that's going on in the gym. I'll go through and tell him I went through and I ran a 7:30-minute mile the other day, and just having that conversation with him. Or what I like to do is I have my Instagram account, the Hybrid Athlete Dad, and every single day I go for, or every single time, not every single day, every single time I go for a run, I like to take a picture of my watch and just put it out there. Hey, this is my run today. 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 And I put it out there to almost hold myself accountable, where I don't want to go and I don't have too many people looking at it. I have my wife, my brother, my sister, and some other family members looking at it. But there's something in it motivating for me that I want to go out, I want to go do this run, and then I get to share with other people like, this is what I did. I did the hard thing today of running these 5 miles, of running these 6 miles, of running these 10 miles, of getting up on Saturday in the middle of winter at 6 a.m. and going out and running 5 miles when it's 5 degrees and my face is frozen off. It can definitely be motivating. I wouldn't rely on outside validation to make you happy, but I do like just putting it out there knowing I did this hard thing, and here, you can come see it if you'd like. I'd recommend tracking progress and going back every once in a while to see how far you've come. And I use a notebook, or I use the note section, I should say, on my phone. I'll put on my workouts, and every once in a while, I like to go back through and click on a workout. Wow, like this is where I was benching, this is where I was deadlifting, maybe this is where I was doing with my barbell curls, and I can see like I look 6 months back. Wow, this is how far that I've come. So I'd recommend tracking your progress and then going back every once in a while just to see how far you've come. And honestly, just remember, it's about the journey and who you become. I never expected to be someone that runs or works out all the time, but over time I just adapted. I found what works best for me, and I have to remember, this is where I started, this is where I am, and I still have so much further to grow, but I don't necessarily want to focus on the future. I want to focus on what I've done now, the here and now, so that way I can continue to get better and improve myself.